What I'd like to do today is to show rapid RDF graph application development from end to end. My starting point is the graph as it's stored, and I'm using a Virtuoso triple store or a graph data store, and in that I've populated it with the RDF equivalent of the ubiquitous Northwind database that can be found on the web and downloaded. And the normal way of interacting is via SPARQL queries, and I can see the typical data of that triple store. Not much use for an end user application. Not only can I use SPARQL, but with OData to SPARQL, I can publish that as a OData endpoint, a RESTful OData endpoint. This is that endpoint publishing those same collections. I can use the RESTful protocol to look at the details of that a particular class, let us say category, and I invoke that RESTful call against the OData endpoint, and it returns all of the information, but now in OData format. In the background, that had got translated to the SPARQL query, which was executed against the RDF Graph store. If I don't like the atom format, well, I can always change it to another format equals JSON, and get the same information in the JSON format. Gets me a little bit closer to application development, but what I want to show today is really rapid application development using the OpenUI5 application library in conjunction with SAP's Web IDE, and I'm using the personal edition. This is the SAP Web IDE, and in the IDE I can simply right-click Workspace and create a new project from a template. The template that I'm going to choose for now is the CRUD master detail, and I'm going to be focusing on, let's say, categories and the products that are in that category. It could have been customers and their orders, it could be anything from the model that is published via the OData endpoint against the SPARQL database. So let's give it a name, demo. That sounds an awfully unimaginative name, but it will work. So let's make it demo. That's enough information for the template. Let's go to the next step. Now the next step is that to define the data source. The thing about OpenUI5 and the Web IDE that is associated with it, it is very model driven, and in this case it needs access to that model of the data. Well, that model of that data is essentially the URL of the OData endpoint. Now I need to configure that first of all. It's here, Northwind RDF. This simply provides the base URL, and I also need the subname, that is the particular endpoint that I want to access. In this case, it's the OData to SPARQL version 2 for Northwind. That's all I need. Test it, and I get a fairly useful catalogue of what has been published from the metadata of OData. In particular, I can look at category, and I see category's got these fields, it's got this primary key, and I have this navigation property, to use OData speak, or object property, to use RDF speak. And I can look at the details of that in the normal way and look at the full description, or even look at live data being pulled back from the database. So that's the one I want to focus on, category, and show the things that are of that category. So next I choose it. I'm going to choose category. Notice it recognizes everything else I can choose, or other classes, that's RDF or OWL speak, or entity types, that is OData speak, I'm going to use category. Now it immediately fills in the primary keys, but let's give it a title, category name, and here let's have a line item title. Well, this is a product because products belong to categories, and let's give it a numeric attribute. I'd like to see the unit price of that. This is the fields that are set up for this template. That's all I need to do. Just finish that. And that's the application built. Now I can simply run that application. I just run it as a web application. And there's the application running with live data coming from the OData endpoint, which is publishing the RDF graph. I can click on these and I can see it updated. Well, you might say that's, yeah, okay, but it's just a browsing application. I could have written SPARQL queries to do something similar, but it's not. I can go further. For example, I can edit with this application. Add a new category. Let's add a new category. And let's give it a category name, new category. Hey, I didn't say I was imaginative in the choice of names. And let's make its primary key the prefix followed by category. That looks good. Save that. There we are. We have that new category. Edit it. I can edit that label and save that. So, or indeed, if I cancel that, I don't like that new category, I can delete that data and it will disappear. So new category has been deleted. So we look good. We've deleted that, we've created that application end to end. It's not just a browsing application, in actual fact it's a fully functional editing application. Now, this is not a closed system. If I go into this application that the template is built for me, I can start editing from there. So that's one thing that we have the opportunity. I can go into the view definitions, I can look at the various aspects of the views and start changing and editing this application. Not going to do that now, but just to illustrate that we haven't locked ourselves into that particular template. That template is nothing more than a starting point from which I can then further edit by adding my own code, my own elements on that page. Pretty good start, I think. We built an application there, fully functional application with only a handful of clicks and not one line of code written.